Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's July 28th, and these are your headlines. First up, we're hearing about Bonito making landfall now in Martha's Vineyard. We're hearing about a good troll striper bite off of Newport, Rhode Island. And last but not least, the tuna bites rages on off of the Cape. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
So before we begin, we're just going to go through the newsy items here. I only got one thing that we're really going to talk about, of course. That's the giveaway. And I forgot to bring the plug with me this time, but we're giving away a rare guppy lure this time around. I just don't have time to be making plugs right now. And I've only gotten a few entries this time around so far. So got a good shot at winning this thing. You know, the only stipulations being that you are in the photo and that it's a recent catch. So you can email it to me at danderson@thefisherman.com, or you can text them to me. And you know, we got until August 18th on this round, so you got plenty of time left to get yourself in there, and I'll be looking forward to seeing what you guys catch. And then just a little update before we go into the reports. For those that are interested and just kind of want to keep the lines of communication open, really appreciate all the emails of encouragement I've been getting about my dad. This week, all the news has been positive, so we're just staying positive and trying to move ahead with, you know, with what the doctors tell him to do. So, thanks again for all your support. So we'll start things off in Massachusetts, as we always do, and talked to James Jukes this week. Sounds like it's been a little bit of a grind up on the North Shore, especially for the surf guys. He said that he and his buddy fished 15 hours this week for one fish of significance, you know, 40-inch striper. Got that shot here. And but you know, as you get off Plum Island, things are getting a little bit better. Up in Maine and down sort of toward like Gloucester area, guys fishing some of the deeper ledges are picking up a few more fish. And then, you know, the first area of like true concentration that's going on right now is around Boston. Same thing that's been going on for a couple weeks now. But it definitely seems to be sort of, the crosshairs seem to have moved a little bit. So now you're down more toward like Scituate area. And there's been some really nice fish being taken there. Fish in the 30-pound range. Definitely even some bigger fish. And that area kind of reminds me of Rhode Island. You know, you got a lot of ledges, you got a lot of deep water, you got a lot of moving water, and you know, it's giving up some good fish right now. And that's not just for the boat guys either. I've heard of some surf guys in the same areas, you know, all the way down into Plymouth, doing pretty well in needlefish over the last couple weeks, and some solid fish being taken. So that's definitely one area you can concentrate on if you're a striper guy. As we head out onto the Cape, you know, a lot of the boat guys now are super focused on tuna, and surf fishermen are having to improvise a little bit. It's not like the fish are moving around, and you know, they're not as concentrated as they were at the beginning of the month. For a more in-depth look at how that's all going down, let's get a little tag team action from the guys from Goose Hummock shop. We've got Phil doing the offshore and the inshore boating stuff, and then we've got Ian talking about the surf and the freshwater.
I'm going to talk a bit of tuna, and then Ian's going to come on down at some stage, and we're going to do an inshore and freshwater and beach report. Tuna fishing is just starting to light up again. If we handle commercial first, if you do have a commercial license or ability to fish for the big fish, it's mandatory at the moment that you get a buyer before you go fishing. Okay, so make sure you have one of the buyers say that they will take your fish, because there's a lot of fish coming in and they're getting very selective. So please do that, otherwise you're going to find yourself with a fish nobody wants to buy, and you're going to have a lot of meat to go around. Anyway, but the great news is for the recreational guys, the tuna fishing's got really good. They disappeared last week and they come back in. They're popping off all over east of Chatham. One of the guys, Jack, on Wednesday, I think he went 7 for 10 on his first outing on a new boat. So congratulations, Jack. And he was using these. He was kind of like using a pink pattern. The fish are getting dialed into smaller baits. So I've been going like the 6 and 9 inch squid. Also this kind of thing, these little rascals, like a little daisy chain. You can run those off a really light rod, or you can even run those off a spinning rod if you don't have a bigger setup. You don't really need to be fishing that 80 class. You can fish 50s or 30s for them because they're pretty small. and the trolling bite has been a really great way of catching the smaller fish because the bigger fish have tended to be further down. I want to show you this, Jake. This is like Daiwa combo. Great thing about this is the BGMQ 14K and the Proteus and the 7-foot heavy. This is like with the line, 60-pound test. This is like $500 combo, so you can get in the tuna game pretty cost effectively. And this is a really good setup. And we've got plenty of these and other options in the shop. If you're throwing at the fish, okay, they've been dialed in on sand eels. So sand eel patterns have been doing really well. The exception to that has been the Saltiga slider, the Dorado slider, which absolutely kills it. But what we found, what I've been using is these. Big lover of these. These are the new Ron Z in a paddle tail. This is the sand eel. It's got the swing hook to stop leverage. It's really nice. That and the silver colour, which I just dropped. Oh, pick it up. Silver colours work really well as well. We just, we got our annual order in and I had to treble it. We sold so many. Again, if they're on the smaller sand eels, this is the 8-inch Ron Z in the white pearl, and also the classic 10-inch. This has worked really well, especially just dead stacking it or just dropping to the bottom and jigging it up almost slow pitch. And if you see them on top, this is the Strategics. This is the Big Naya. Okay, this is the 155, 165 in a sand eel pattern. We got it in the 130, and we got it in a lightweight one. Okay, and then also the Proteus. These are butterfish pattern. I've only got a few of these left. When the tuna dial into the butterfish, they're an absolute pain in the arse to catch. So this could really work for you. Okay. Anyway, this is the rent. Are you going to rent in this? I'm going to pay. Alright, so that's the tuna report. The tuna's on fire right now. It's really got going. Get out there, have fun. Reminder, if you're going commercial, get a bite before you go on the water. If you wreck, you can have 2 fish 27 to under 48 and 1 over 48 under 73. Have fun. It's really hot. Make sure you got plenty of ice on the boat and have fun out there. Thanks.
I actually took a couple days off from the surf. It was too freaking hot and really windy, so I did a little bit on the flats. I absolutely killed it. I got 4 keepers. They all went back, but 4 keepers and countless schoolies. I actually put out the 8-weight. It was a little breezy, but non-stop action, all sight fish. Great day. Then I hit the pond in the afternoon to kind of cool it down. We've kind of had a heat wave out on the Cape, so I did a little swim and did a little bass fishing. I got 5 smallmouth and a bunch of largies, all on the Ned rig, and like right at the end of the day. So I kind of did like a swim at 5, and I think I started fishing at like 6 till like 7:30 or something like that. Super effective. Like I said, all in the Ned. It was just a blast using the trout rod. It was just a lot of fun smacking those. And then the night bite on the oceanside beaches has been really good. Had an awesome night last night. Had to do a little bit of driving around to find them, but when we've been finding them, they've been big and plentiful. So as you can see, it kind of has bass thumb, loving it. Yeah, so that's basically the freshwater. The pond's super hot. Shiners of the Ned has been the trick for me, and or the Kayak. And then the beaches after dark, I know Race Point and Monomoy have just been absolutely loaded with stripers. Mostly squid. If you can find the macks, they work as well. But for me, the squid imitations down at Monomoy are just so much fun. You can fish light tackle and get some nice fish. I just know it's stacked out there. So I wish I was off the clock and out there with you guys. But slam them for me because I'm at work. Tight lines, everybody. Have a great day.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing: that nothing says no to fish bites.
Down in Nantucket Sound and Vineyard Sound, as I sort of alluded to in the intro, Bonito have now kind of made their way from Nantucket across through the Hooter and then into, onto Martha's Vineyard proper. The place that we're hearing about them, the most recent report that I've heard is some fish busting up off of the Menemsha jetties. So there's some Bonito in that area, and more fish are just going to continue to move in to that area now and start to populate into the sound itself. And when you think about it, I mean, we're only, 3, maybe 4 weeks away from albies showing up on the Cape. So that's another thing to get excited about. This is when you want to go out and stock up on your albie snacks. You want to stock up on your XO jigs, and get get into the shop before the hysteria hits, because I've worked in tackle shops and I've seen what it's like when this stuff starts to go down, and it's quite a spectacle. On the bottom fishing end of things, you know, sea bass fishing has been on the slower side. Guys are still getting them, but you got to fish some real deep structure. Fluke-wise, guys are getting them at Lucas, they're getting them at Hedge Fence, they're getting them at Middle Ground, they're getting them at some of these other places, you know, other shoals out there, these sand waves out there, but definitely a grind finding keepers, so you got to be dedicated. You're going to want to have to put that time in, otherwise you're going to be catching mostly shorts and maybe going home unhappy. Moving into Buzzards Bay, it's been pretty slow in Buzzards Bay too. The only thing I'm really hearing about there is bluefish. Moving into the canal, things are getting a little bit better. Things are picking up a little bit. But rather than me telling you about it, let's toss it over to a guy that fishes there almost every day, East End Eddie.
So I'm here this morning on the Cape Cod Canal. That's Pole 85 behind me, and the Sagamore Bridge behind that, and the fog. We got an east tide working this morning, and hopefully that's going to be productive as soon as I finish this video. So the canal's been slow, like you reported, Dave, but you also reported it was going to probably get better. And you're right, there haven't been blitzes, but it is getting better. The guys that have been most successful recently are guys that are chunking using live bait, especially in the East End. But don't throw away the lures, because they've been productive also. And so Jack Barton was fishing the other day using all kinds of lures and couldn't catch anything. The guy next to him suggested pink. So Jack put on the only pink lure he had, a Jack's feathered bucktail, pink bucktail, and he caught a 42-inch striper on the second cast. And then yesterday, Ryan Smith from Bourne caught a fish that was just a little bit above slot, and he was using a pink Savage at the end of the east tide. And the biggest fish I've heard of recently is by experienced canal rat Bob Ware. He caught a 33-pound striped bass on a pink Algags 5-ounce soft plastic jig, and on a west tide. So and that's a nice fish, Bob. And then John Doble and Hawkeye Willis were riding their bikes on the Cape side, and they got into some fish, at least one slot. So there's fish out there, and my theory on pink, because pink seems to be the predominant color, my theory is that even though I haven't seen squid in the canal, these fish are so used to seeing squid in the Buzzards Bay and a ton of it in Cape Cod Bay that they just are used to it, and so when they see pink, they hit it. So, as far as bluefish, it was a good school to push through for a couple of days. You can catch them all up and down the canal. I caught a 9.9 pounder. It was, if it had a little more breakfast, I would have had a 10 pounder, but that was on a Bill Hurley white canal killer. It was on the bottom, but even though I caught him on the bottom, he shot right up and charged up through the water and did a dance like a topping, as bluefish are known to do. And I'd recommend, if you like eating bluefish, eat it fast, because it deteriorates quickly. It really makes a difference. My wife is a great cook, so that helps too. But that fish was swimming at 5:30 and he was in my stomach at 7:30, so it doesn't get any fresher than that. So my tip for the week is, if you see a sticker that says Cape Cod Canal Tunnel, if you're new to the area, there is no tunnel. That's a joke. So I had a guy come up to me last year, actually in the East End. He had Iowa plates. He was asking me for directions to the Cape Cod Canal Tunnel. So there is no tunnel. It's a joke. So you got to have a sticker. But anyways, you just have to use a bridge like the rest of us. So until next time, be safe and catch a big one. This is East End Eddie on the Cape Cod Canal.
And then to wrap things up in Massachusetts, we're going to head up into interior Mass for some freshwater reports from Roy Leyve.
Hey Dave, Roy Leyve here, and this week's report coming to you from on the water. We're actually on the Connecticut River. Me and Brooke, she's running the camera. Fishing's been great this past week. It's been very hot. Obviously, we've had that huge heat wave for about 60 days of 90 degrees weather, which made things a little bit tough, but the fishing was consistent. So, you know, early mornings and evenings if you were chasing bass. During the day, try to find some of those deeper holes, deep weed edges, and springs for pike. We had a great day on the river for pike, and today we're out here and we're catching bass at a pretty good clip. Nothing monstrous, but a lot of 1.5 to 3 pound fish. So here's one I just landed. Figured we'd give them a little camera cameo this week. All right, weather looks like a little bit cooler this week, so my guess is things are probably going to change up a little bit, but summertime tactics still continue. Catch you guys next week. Thanks.
Hey guys, back here at the house, and I realized after going through the video that I forgot to mention something kind of important. You know, I was saying in the main report that Buzzards Bay has been kind of slow for sea bass and fluke, but one guy that seems to have it figured out is Jason Colby from Little Sister Charters. He's running out of Westport, and he's making some long runs. He's making some runs to Nomans. He's making some long runs to like the East Grounds and places like that. But he's finding some really nice sea bass and some really nice flukes. So if you're looking for someone to go out with in that area, definitely somebody you may want to check out. And I mean, he's a super fishy guy. He's always seems to have his finger on the pulse of what's going on, and you know, where the biggest fish are in that region. So give him a call, look him up, and you know, I think you'd be happy with that choice. Over in Rhode Island, we're hearing about a good bass bite off of Aquidneck Island, so between Newport and Portsmouth. This has been a troll bite. You know, guys are getting them mostly on tube and worm, but definitely getting them on mojos and definitely getting them snap and wire as well. A lot of this has to do with the fact that the water temperatures are so high. I just checked the Newport water temp this morning, and it was 73 degrees. That's pretty darn warm, even for the end of July in Newport. So I think that's got a lot of these fish pushed out onto some of the reefs, into some of that deeper water, and you know, it's just a sign of the times. It's just the way it is this year. We're having a lot of warm weather. We got no rain, and the fish are feeling it. You know, they're staying out in deeper water, but guys are getting some nice fish. They're getting fish in that 15 to 35 pound range, and there's been some really big bluefish in that area as well. So just trolling those deeper reefs, that seems to be the way that these guys are getting most of their fish. It's been boat and kayak also. For the surf guys, it's been a lot more of a grind. The guys that I've been talking to, I haven't been fishing that much. I've been through a lot these last couple of weeks, but the surf guys that I've been talking to are telling me it's a grind, you know, and the only way they're having success is just staying with it, just sticking it out night after night. The one bright spot is there's been a lot of bait around, so if you can find that squid, those sand eels, or those first few peanut bunker that are starting to push out now, you've got a good chance of finding some fish. When you're not finding bait, you're grinding it out. Then, of course, you know, the most consistent bass fishing, of course, is happening out of Block Island. A lot of giant fish out there at Southwest Ledge and the southeast corner now. Guys are getting them on eels. They're getting them on big rubber eels, and you know, using a few other methods too. I've heard of some guys getting them on flutter spoons and stuff like that out there. But the lion's share of these fish are definitely being caught three-weighing eels. There's been some good bottom fishing action going on out there too, and still lots of big bluefish in the area. For a more in-depth or more complete rundown of what's going on at Block, let's toss it over to my buddy John Lee from JL Charters.
This week, I've again run mostly bass and bluefish trips to the island. There's been a bunch of big bass around, and big bluefish. The bluefish year is just. Last year and the year before, we had these lulls between the bluefish schools. You'd have them, then you'd lose them. You'd have them, then you'd lose them. This year, they're really sticking around, and so I think that's a good thing. And the bass have been big. They've been in a handful of different spots around Block Island. I have not done all that well on slot fish. Maybe it's just me. I think other guys are catching them. I have not done that well with those. The sea bass fishing up on the South Shore has been very good. Fairly easy limits with 6 people on board. Those sea bass are hitting the normal things of jigs, bait. The fluke bite, we have been getting some fluke in kind of 70 feet of water, 80 feet of water, and we'll continue looking for those. Again, it hasn't been great for us. I think some boats are limiting out. The boats that are really focused on fluke, trip in, trip out, we are not. And the chub mackerel are giving their show. We've caught some of those. People bring them home, try to broil them. And I guess the chubs are here to stay. They were here last year, the year before. Anyway, that's it. Talk to you next week. Have a good one.
Thanks, John. Appreciate the report. Going along South County, you know, the bass fishing has been so-so until you get to like Watch Hill Reefs and then heading over to Fishers. There's been some decent action in that area. But the breachways have been kind of up and down. Again, really warm water, and those ponds are extra warm. So that's definitely a contributing factor there. Fluking off the beaches is better than it was, but only incrementally better. Definitely not what we're used to seeing in that area, but at least things are looking up a little bit. So it's a place you can go and find some fluke if you don't want to burn the fuel going out to the windmills. And that's a story that I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. Over in Connecticut, it seems like a lot of the action is moving east now. So the sea bass, like I kind of alluded to last week, the action has moved further and further east. So now your best fishing is going to be on those ledges from like the Connecticut River over to Niantic, and then even kind of heading out over toward New London, and out around Fishers as well. So that bite is starting to pick up finally, and conversely, it's starting to slow down more and more as you get west of the Connecticut River, and the further west you go, the tougher it's going to get. Fluking, guys that I've talked to that are fluking the Eastern Sound are finding some fish, but they're working hard for them. The guys that are finding the best fish and the most consistent limits are making the long rides at Block or Montauk. That's just the way it is right now. Bass fishing wise, it's been pretty good. The Connecticut River area has some really nice fish and a good mix of sizes, from, you know, fish just under slot to fish, you know, well into the 40-pound class anyway. But of course, the average fish are more in that like 16 to 25-pound range. That's kind of the crosshairs right now. And you can find those fish all around Fishers. You can find them at many of the reefs like Bartlett's and Hatchett's, and then up into the lower part of the Connecticut River. For a little bit more in-depth rundown on how that fishery is working out right now, let's toss it over to Mike Roy for Real Cast Charters.
Hey, what's going on, guys? For this week's Fisherman Report, as I've indicated the past couple weeks, for striped bass fishing, expect them to be in their summer patterns. And what I mean by that is if you look in some of the rivers, you now have water temps in the afternoon, surface temps that could be up to 85 degrees. So a lot of those fish have dropped out of those areas, and they're going to be either in the mouths of the rivers and estuaries, or just outside in the adjacent reefs and areas, you know, like the local reefs and drop-offs. Though they should still be pretty close, but expect them to have moved out of the areas that have really warm water. But the striper fishing is still good if you can find them, and you probably want to have some live bait with you. But there are a lot of slot-sized fish and some big cows mixed in as well. Blue fishing is still good in a lot of the deeper areas. You know, you need moving water and deeper areas, and the blues are hitting diamond jigs, different lures. They have been up on the surface occasionally, but the big change this week has been the start of the small bait. We have a lot of what we call rain bait. It could be juvenile silver sides or menhaden or sandales, but it's tiny, and we're seeing a lot of stripers in the 20-inch class swimming around with their mouths open, gorging on them. So that's a good thing to see. We also have been seeing some chub mackerels, which are going to fool a lot of people and get people excited. They are not albies, but they move really fast, and they feed pretty ferociously on the surface. So there are a lot of chub macks starting to roll around the sound as well. Bottom fishing has been so-so. Still a lot of short sea bass. The keeper short ratio isn't very good. And I haven't heard, actually I have seen and heard of some big doormat fluke being caught even up to 10 pounds. So I guess there are a few big doormats kicking around out in the deeper water. And that's all I have for you. Good luck.
Heading west from the Connecticut River, as I sort of alluded to already, things are starting to get a little tougher. It's good bluefish action, though, west of the river. That's kind of been the bright spot. And if you find bunker schools, you're going to find some big bass mixed in with those bluefish as well. So still some shots of bigger bass west of the river. But the bluefishing has been really good out that way. bass fishing is slowing down overall, and the sea bass fishing also slowing down as a whole. Of course, the other thing that's been red hot throughout all of Connecticut is the porgy fishing. It doesn't matter if you're ashore, kayak, paddleboard, or floating in an inner tube. They're out there, and they're out there in good numbers. Guys are getting them on all different stuff. They're getting them on jigs tipped with fish bites. They're getting them on every conceivable type of dead bait, and they're getting them, you know, jigging little things like exo jigs and stuff like that too. So those fish are hungry, happy, and abundant right now. Max wasn't able to record a video this week, just got a lot going on, he said, and that's fine, of course. The Western Sound has been slowing down a little bit. There are still some decent bass to be had if you can find them around the bunker schools. And again, fluking's slowing down, but the guys that are finding them out west are typically running out into deeper water. And before we wrap this thing up, we're going to throw it over to my buddy Rowan Lytle and his friend Noah Johnson. They're going to talk about some of the underutilized fisheries in Connecticut. I know Rowan got a really nice carp this week. I'm sure he'll talk about that, so let's toss it over to them.
Howdy, Dave. This week for us it's all about saprophytes. That's your carps, minnows, and suckers. Now they're pretty resilient to drastic weather changes like that cold front we had just a couple of days ago. I've been focusing on the Hexagenia hatch. That's a giant mayfly that emerges on slow, mud and silt bottom rivers, and that brings about just every fish up to the surface. Now it can cause some incredible dry fly fishing, but last week, just after the hatch ended and fish focused on eating the nymphs, I got a giant carp on my 5-weight. It was very close to 30 pounds. It ate a rubber leg nymph, and the fight was unreal. Now, Captain Noah Johnson here has got the scoop on some of the other saprophyte options you got this time of year.
A lot of fun things to do at this time of year, but what I've been doing lately, and one of my favorites, is the fall fish. Fall fish inhabit slow flowing creeks and rivers and will readily take any smaller artificial or bait. Now I'm actually going to be guiding a client for fall fish as well as some other oddball species this Friday. It's probably going to be a lot of fun. Also, another solid option is goldfish, if you can find them in a body of water like this one right behind me. Really, they'll take anything small. You'd be surprised at the things they'd take. It's a pretty good time.
Yep. While we're waiting for things to heat up with the fall run, that's going to be the stuff occupying us. Back to you.
And that's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. I hope they find them useful. And you know, if you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman, I highly recommend heading over to the website, checking out what we got going on. There's enough free content there for you to get a pretty good flavor of what we offer. And as I always say, it's the best $30 you can spend in fishing. You're going to get 12 monthly issues, and you're going to get over 20 digital issues, along with reports that cover the entire northeastern coast from Delaware all the way up to Maine, and every species that you can think of in that range. So go on over there and check us out. But if you're still not interested, at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube, and hit that little bell thing down there so you get a notification every time we post something new. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
No change in the standings this week in the Dreamboat contest. We did have a notable fluke entry by Bill DaCosta of Massachusetts, New York, weighted in at Combs Bait and Tackle. This 11.92 pound beauty places Bill in the 3rd place position for fluke. The Dreamboat Fishing Challenge is the Fisherman subscriber-only multi-species fishing competition with a chance to win a new Steiger Craft 23 Miami powered by Yamaha, along with many other great prizes. Visit thefisherman.com to subscribe and get all the details so you can be part of the action. As for the Coastal Kayak competition, there were no new entries, so the standings remain the same. Check this video's description on YouTube for all the details and to be a subscriber to the Fisherman magazine.